It's the movie Toasty Show.
My name is Matt Peters, and I'm the director of Babylon 5, The Road Home.
Have you been attached to Babylon for a while, or is this your first foray into it? Or?
What happened was actually I was working with our executive producer, Rick Morales, on another project, and I was all set and queued up to direct that project. And then Rick got the opportunity to work on Babylon 5, and he knew that I liked science fiction. He knew I liked sci-fi TV, and he asked me if I wanted to be involved. I knew of the show, but I hadn't seen it, so what happened is I started to do some research. I started watching some of the episodes, and after I got into about 3 or 4 episodes, I was like, absolutely, I want to be on this.
Nice.
And then from there, I actually binged all 5 seasons of the show, so I watched the entire series right before it started. Before I even did anything, before any handout to anybody, I watched the whole show.
So nice deep dive right there.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it? Because you're working now with an iconic series from the 90s, and now at 2023, it's so different.
Yeah.
You need to think like old versus now. I don't know. How do you feel about it?
It was exciting. I knew Joe's work before from comics myself, and I knew his work actually from animation as well. So that was exciting just to be able to work with him, and he gave us such a great script. And like I said, I became a fan of the show just doing my research for it. So by the time I was working on the show, I felt like it was. I felt blessed, like I had an opportunity to work on something that I really enjoyed, which is I get to do that a lot, but that was really special to have that this time.
What is one of the biggest challenges you face as a director on this project like this?
One of I guess the biggest thing was there was a little bit of, we were nervous that we wanted to be honest to the show as we could, but we also didn't want to become trapped. We didn't want to have that thing where we were kind of just going through the motions and trying to redo a television show. We wanted to tell our story. We wanted to tell that script. And as we started working on it, we really began to really get into it. It was actually really exciting. I was mentioning before that there's a scene in the movie where there's a bunch of screens, a bunch of images on screen showing different alternate realities and things. And I needed a bunch of reference to put that in, so I immediately pulled reference from the original series. So we actually animated scenes from the original series that we put into this movie. So that was a challenge, because that meant I had to actually come up with an entire extra act to put in this movie, which normally we do 3 acts. I had to do 4.
What that show? Is it truly? Because I'm one of the old guys actually Lost in Space example. They never got home. They never got to Alpha Centauri. Actually, one time they got back to Earth, but it was not the right time, so they had to leave again. So is this actually the real Voyager show?
The real what? Sorry?
Going back home from Babylon 5. The whole thing is they're really going to end up where they were supposed to go, because it's a colonization project. That was Babylon 5 from the beginning. So I think finally get to the point where you say okay, here's closure.
Yeah, well, it felt like, I will admit that when I got to the end of the 5th season, it felt like the show had wrapped, and I was kind of really curious to see where Joe was going to go. And he found more magic to kind of pull out for this movie. And the other thing that made it really great was that, and I've heard this from other people who had seen the movie, is that they had not seen the show. So they were able to watch this movie and become interested in Babylon 5 just from this, which is great, because it's then you got a whole new way to introduce fans to the series and everything. So I feel like we succeeded on both ends. I feel like we were able to satisfy the fans. Hopefully the fans will appreciate it, but we also can introduce new people to the show.
Now, is this a direct sequel to the series, or is it kind of an offshoot? Or?
I would say it's a continuation of what the series had started. Yeah, and I think that it was something that Joe wanted to do, a celebration for the show, and I think that was ultimately what we aimed to do, and I think we did a pretty good job.
Now, I know what characters from the original show and cast members were you guys able to bring back, or is it kind of mainly new characters brought into this one?
We brought the original cast back. in fact, while I was doing my research for the show, apparently this is a normal thing that happens to every Babylon fan who starts watching the show later, like me. You start watching the show, and then you can't stop but want to go look up things online. So you start like falling down rabbit holes, like finding out all these different fan sites and stuff. So that happened to me. And obviously then I found out how a lot of the cast had passed on, and so that was something that was heartbreaking to hear. But I know that Joe was he was in touch with the cast, the remaining cast, and that was something important. He wanted to make sure that they were okay with the idea that we'd be working with different actors and things. And but we were able to do that. We were able to kind of bring those performances back with new actors. And they kind of actually, I really love that, because it feels like that while they're gone as people, it's like their characters and their spirit still lives on.
That's nice.
So when did you first meet Joe? I mean, had you watched the entire series first, and then you met Joe, or did you meet him before you watched the series?
I had knew of Joe. I had been a fan of his work in comics, and I had not met him actually until we started doing records. And when we had records, this was during COVID when we were working on it, so it was all Zoom calls and things like that. So he came up on the screen. He's an unbelievably casual and fun person to talk to. I was nervous because I wanted to tell him how much I loved his work, and obviously how much of a fan of the show I was. And after spending just a little bit of time talking to him, it just feels like a total casual friend.
Are there any connections between the new storyline and the old storyline that might help fill in some like threads of like stuff that might not have been answered in the original series?
Joe would probably be a better person to ask that. I know that there were things that he wanted to really address. He did give us some notes about some things to, address the series as a whole, because he knew that there were items that fans were interested in. But for like me, I can't remember what they were. Like I said, the biggest thing was doing that final Act D that I was telling you about. What we did, where we made the images of different images from the show. I needed it for just a visual thing, and so I had to scrub through episodes and find things that I thought would look good, but also be easy to animate. And I had to turn around and get my crew to storyboard that in like a short period of time. Wow. Yeah. I'm hoping someday that somebody, when they watch this, is going to be a Babylon 5 fan is going to watch that sequence of the film, and they're going to break down which one is from which show and from which scenes. That's what I'm hoping for.
That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah.
Looks like one more question.
One more question.
Okay, sure. So, who's your favorite character? I have to ask the fan question, right? Who's your favorite character?
I actually like Garibaldi. He was actually one of my favorites and stuff. But I also liked Captain Sheridan. So that was a lot of people were kind of like, he was like for only one season and stuff like that. But I really kind of grew to like him and stuff. So or Sinclair, excuse me.
Oh, Sinclair, yeah.
Yeah.
But he had such a great arc, though, later on. So
He did, yeah. A really good payoff. Obviously that was my introduction.
Well, that's all we get. Thank you very much for being here.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
My name is Eleanor Roosevelt.
Oh, hey,
You may know my husband's work.
Actually, I've been here. I don't know Russell.
Sorry.
J. Michael Straczynski, a.k.a. Joe Straczynski, a.k.a. Your Highness.
The great creator.
yes,
The
the greatest creator, the greatest. Okay, the greatest.
As a creator, I want to know for some inspiration or some things do you like, or do you consume like music or something like that to create this movie?
My inspiration is always the same. I start with the characters. Who they are, what they want, how far they'll go to get it, how far someone's willing to stop them. Once you answer those questions, you have most of your story. I tend to listen to music a lot, mainly during the last phase of the writing when I worked everything out. My process of writing is to not write. I just think about the story over and over and over while it's still in my head until I can see every single scene and every single line in my head, and it's all there, and I have to get it down in white heat before it all goes away. So so like 6 months of thinking about it, then 2 weeks to write it. That's just why it's cut once.
Are there any new alien races in this film? And if they are, how do they end up working with the politics of everything in the film?
No, I really wanted to focus this primarily on the main characters of the story of our show. Because here's an opportunity to bring all the surviving cast members together and make it about them rather than the guest alien character.
Makes sense.
And not only to give the surviving actors a chance to shine, but also to do a testimony for the actors who aren't with us anymore. When Warner's first came to me about doing this, before I wrote a page of the script, I sent an email to all the cast members who were still with us to say, you may have to work with an actor playing one of our fallen friends. Are you okay with that? Are you comfortable with that? And if anyone said no, I said we won't do it.
Oh wow!
But no one said no, and they also agree with the idea that this is going to be a great chance to memorialize those performances. That it was a definitive version of Jakar. This is the definitive version of Glenn. We were bringing that to life, and the actors we brought on to play those roles understood, the magnitude of what they were being asked to do. So it was really a focus on our main characters, also because we've never had a chance before to have Lockley and Ivanova and Sinclair and Sheridan all in the same story. So that had to be my priority.
Nice. How long have you wanted to tell this story, or is it kind of newer, or has it been sitting with you for the past 24 years?
Oh no, I don't want to do old ideas. I think as an artist, either you break new ground or you fertilize old ground. And so what would work well as an animated movie? What services our needs now? Also, 24 years ago, I was a very different writer. And I think I've learned a few things since then. So I want to use those skills to tell a different kind of a story.
Was there ever any thought to do this live action, or was it always animated for you?
Well, the animated division contacted us. And I kind of narrowed it down.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I heard something yesterday say that was the budget. in another, I think it was Justin League, something like that. It's easier to create what you want to show on animation than with live, because it involves more sets, more lighting, more different stuff that you can easily create with animation.
Oh yeah, but also I have a very soft spot in my heart for animation. That's how I started as a writer in television. Worked on He-Man and She-Ra. I helped create She-Ra, Real Ghostbusters, others. So the chance to work again in animation was very attractive to me.
I remember that show.
I'm sorry.
Not really. I mean, not really. Actually, it's fun because part of coming back to Comic-Con brings you back to most of those shows you almost forgot. Like Lost in Space, which I didn't know until now I was checking that Billy Mommy and June Lockhart were part of the cast once at a time. And they're like, oh, hey, Chekhov was there. Walter Koenig. So I do not recall them now, but coming back, gives me the opportunity to remember that.
Well, the character, because the character he played, and I actually had a chance to chat with Walter one time, and I basically told him, I said, that character is just so much more interesting, and the way you wrote him, it's like, because he was a total jerk, but at the same time, in his mind, obviously, and those are always the best villains, that they aren't villains.
Yeah.
But he was there to protect Earth, and he was doing whatever was necessary.
The monster never sees a monster in the mirror.
Yeah.
And that ambiguity has always fascinated me. And there are things that we addressed in the course of this show that I also want to address here as well. Beyond that, my sense as a writer, as a human being or something close to that, is that over the last 5 or 10 years, we have been marginalized and fractionalized and tribalized within an inch of our lives. And I want always to write stories to say we are better together than we are apart. At the common coin of our shared humanity, will beat whatever they want to send against us. And that sensibility is here as well. Where it's all through Babylon 5 through Sense8 as well. I don't believe necessarily marching with a sign in my hand, but by the same token, I think it's important to point to the horizon of the human race and say, Is this where you want to go?
But isn't it always great science fiction? It always gives us that chance, and we can look at it, and it's just, you know, and Babylon 5 did it like infinite number of times. I mean, just over and over again. But like you said, you never beat us over the head with it. It's just that you would just like lead us there, and you would say, well, what do you think? And
we did an episode where Marcus and Stephen Franklin, two guys, go undercover as a married couple. And the humor is that it's them, not about getting married. It's accepted. My feeling is that when aliens show up with, you know, 3 heads, fangs, and fur, our own differences are going to pale by comparison. You know? And it will no longer even be an issue.
You would hope not, but
yeah.
But you know people.
Well, once we had new scapegoats.
Yeah. That's
the whole planet's worth of scapegoats, man.
Just real quick, and guys, I want to go off the topic for just a second. Forbidden Planet.
Yeah.
You working on that? What can you say?
I wrote the script with Jim Cameron, and it's probably one of the best things I've ever done. But Jim got pulled off into Avatar Land. Mm-hmm. And he swears he'll get back to it one of these days, but right now it's still sitting on a shelf with Warner Brothers.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah, it's solid, man. It takes the original mythology, recreates it. See, led up to that in more detail. But I tell you one thing, I learned a lot working with Jim Cameron. He said one of the smartest things I've ever heard about writing science fiction. He said, I used to think that writing science fiction was about writing familiar characters and unfamiliar settings. It took me 10 years to realize that I'm wrong. It's about familiar relationships, not familiar settings. So Aliens is a mother-daughter relationship, even though it's not. Terminator 2 is a father-son relationship, even though it's not. Because you may not be able to, as an audience, to buy into androids or aliens or time travel, but you can buy into that relationship. And that relationship becomes a gateway drug to accept the rest of it. And that blew my mind when I realized that.
Well, Terminator 2, I mean, it was the family unit. It was it was always the family unit.
Yeah.
But everybody had to protect the family, and it's like there was no weak link there. I mean, they give the gun to the kid, here, drive, you know. And then, he's like a kid. He's up there driving, and the mother's shooting, and the alien shooting. I mean, it's like you know, it's like, but everybody's there protecting the family.
Yes.
But you're right. It's always relationships, and it's just. It was the thing with Delenn and Sheridan. It's always, you know, it's always the family and just something. Yeah.
Always that relationship.
Yeah. Love those characters.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Eleanor,
Thank you. Seriously, thanks.
Eleanor, say goodbye.
It's the movie toast the show.